Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show. Super glad that you are here rocking with us, because you could be rocking with a whole lot of other people, but you're not. You're here with us, and for that, we are ridiculously grateful. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have not already done so, subscribe to this channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast. If you listen to us through all the podcasting platforms out there, we want you to never, ever miss not an episode that we drop. So the best way to do that is to make sure that you are totally subscribed and locked in so that you get the notification every time a new episode of the His and Her Money Show hits the airwaves. Now, you guys know, man, we're big proponents of taking dominion. That's what we tell y'all every episode, that you got to take dominion. It's there, but you got to take it. And so that is at the heart of today's conversation. I am super excited about this one. Got a friend of mine to help us all understand this thing we call legacy a little bit better. We use that word a lot. It gets thrown around. But do we really understand what it is? Do we really understand the significance of it? Do we know how to live for it? Well, we're going to get a little help with that today. And by the time that you finish this episode, you're going to have a much better understanding of how to do that. Our friend Brian Bullock is here to help us all understand this concept a little bit better. Not just understand it, but apply it to our lives. So get ready, get your pens, paper, stay focused, stay locked in, because this one is one you need to tap into. Hey, Brian, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Listen, man, I finally made it. I feel like a celebrity. I feel like a superstar. I made it to the His and Her Money Show. Man, where's the crowd? Where's the confetti? Let's go.
We're glad to have you, man. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get this done, and we got it done. We've been wanting to get you on for a long time, man. You took off. I mean, you've been doing your thing for a long time. You've been grinding. You've been building for a long time, but a lot of people came to know you because of this video that went viral all across the interwebs, where you were talking about how all these major companies were based on last names and how we need to take stock in that and apply it to our lives. And so we're going to have a whole deep conversation about the power of living for a legacy. But before we jump into your great advice, your great wisdom, some people are being introduced to you for the very first time right here, right now. So can you just say hello to everybody that's tuned in and let them know what you're all about?
What's going on, people? Listen, my name is Brian Bullock. I was born and raised in the inner city of Boston, single mom, absent dad, grew up in the hood. My story is very similar to many other people who grew up in rough neighborhoods, saw a lot of gang violence. Dad was addicted to drugs, grew up in poverty, grew up around, man, just a bunch of nonsense. And my mom, she really was raising us on her own. And she took me to church every week. And at church was my grandfather. And I had one of those old school grandfathers who made you wear a suit even when you were 10 years old, And my grandfather would always say stuff to me like, son, you're a Bullock. Bullock wear ties. Bullock say hello. Bullock shake hands. And just traveling with him as a young man, as I grew older, he gave me identity, gave me purpose. And now today, man, I've been married for 14 years. I got a 6-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old son. I've traveled the country, got a video that's going viral. And man, I'm trying to make a difference and make an impact in my world. I speak all over the place, man. I really get an opportunity to meet people from all over the country and help people build their own legacy, man. So I'm excited to be on the show. That's just a little bit about who I am. And I love LeBron James, by the way.
That's unfortunate, but we will continue the interview despite that last comment. So, I mean, let's talk about that video, because it really was a precipice upon, your book and the message that you've been trying to get out to people to really live for a legacy. So take us back to that moment when you're crafting that message. What was the heart of it? And for those who never heard it, like, can you give us, some of the wisdom that we need to extrapolate from the message that you were trying to convey with that?
What was interesting about that message, man, was I was living in Denver, Colorado at the time, and I got a phone call from a family that I did not know who asked if I could be the keynote speaker for their family reunion. This was not my family. And I've never spoken at a family reunion in my life. And I said, you want me to speak at your family reunion? They said, yep, we've seen you speak. And we just want you to go out there and say whatever you want. So I think it was like the Johnson family. I'm like, what am I going to say to the Johnson family? I sat down and I started writing something called Living for Legacy. And one of the things that inspired me was a movie called The Founder, where it's a movie about Ray Kroc and how Ray Kroc was able to take some people would say steal, but take the McDonald's company from the McDonald's brothers. And it made me ask myself a question. If McDonald's is a family, how many other companies are families? I just did a little Google search. I did not know at the time. I did a Google search and I realized that most of the companies that we shop at all the time, that those are not just products, those are families. So McDonald's is a last name, Abercrombie and Fitch, last names, Wells Fargo, Rolls Royce, Baskin Robbins, Pillsbury, Hyatt, Marriott, Gucci, Hennessy, Harley Davidson. These are not just products, these are last names, which means when I give my money to a company, I'm not just giving my money to a company, I'm giving my money to a family. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Here I am, I'm giving every other family my money, making them rich. So here I am making Wells Fargo rich, and yet Bullock be broke. So I'm supporting Pillsbury, but Bullock don't have anything. And that's when it hit me, man. We gotta stop investing in everyone else's name and ignoring our own. We've got to stop investing in everyone else's family and stop rejecting our own. And so that's when I decided, you know what? I'm no longer living for my first name. I'm gonna start living for my last name. And that is how the sermon and the message was written.
That's dope. I'm gonna get from preacher to preacher. I'm gonna give you a bullet for the next time. Next time you say I was giving all my money to Pillsbury, then you say, but the Bullock didn't have no dough. Get it?
I'm taking that one. I'll give you
That's
credit the
yours,
first
man.
time.
I want to give it to you, man. Put it in your back pocket. But man, this is amazing because it's not something that we spend a lot of time thinking about. We just go to these stores or frequent these companies or make these purchases without that type of mind state. We just think that we're just buying biscuits or we're just buying a purse or we're just buying a vehicle, but you're actually adding to the bottom line of somebody else's legacy. And for a lot of people, they're doing that, which that in and of itself isn't wrong, unless you're putting absolutely nothing toward the bottom line of your last name. So as you went through this process, you were kind of pushed into this by going to this family reunion to speak. What type of stock did you take into you and how you were or were not building a legacy, and what shifted for you personally as a result of going through this process?
At that time, I've always been legacy minded. Again, my grandfather instilled it in me. Right now, I said I have a 6-year-old daughter named Summer Annabella, who's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then I have a son whose name is Brian. And part of the reason that I named him Brian was because of a conversation that I had with a mentor. I was going to name my son something else. And he said, "No, man, you want another Brian Bullock in the world." And I said, "Do I really want another Brian Bullock?" He's like, "No, man, that's legacy, man. You want to be proud of who you are. You want to live up to the name so that you can pass down the name that your son can be proud of." So even at that time, I had a mindset that's like, look, I'm Brian Bullock, but I got another Brian Bullock behind me. And I'm trying to pave a way, not just for me, I'm trying to pave a way for him. I want him to grow up and say, yo, I'm Brian Bullock. Brian Bullock is somebody. Brian Bullock is something special. And so, man, at that time, I had legacy in my mind. But after the speech turned into a sermon. That sermon, we took a clip from that and we posted it online. And it just went crazy. It went nuts. Millions and millions and millions of views, even to this day. And I think for me, it helped me to realize that this was not just my life purpose, but that this was something that I've been called to and assigned to teach other people about and to educate a generation that saw legacy as a message we talk about at funerals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get us to stop talking about it at funerals and get us to talk about it at the kitchen table. because legacy doesn't just mean what do people say about me when I die. It means what do I want people to say about me while I live. And so now is the time for us to make a decision. How do I want to be remembered now, not just when I'm gone?
How do we get past mental roadblocks? Because people might be listening and they heard your name on these big companies, like, yeah, okay, great. They're billion-dollar companies. They listen to you like, yeah, he's a pastor. Of course, he's building a legacy, but I'm Susie, the teacher, or I'm Marvin, the mailman. What does this have to do with me? What would you say to that?
I think every person will acknowledge that there are generational cycles that are in every person's life. So Susie, the teacher, or someone who is just a mechanic, or somebody who's unknown, if they look in their life, they will realize there are patterns that are happening in their life that are a result of something a great grandmother did or a grandmother did. It's amazing to me. I rarely meet somebody who's going through something, some type of traumatic experience that is by itself, like a single solo moment. Typically, when I see somebody getting divorced, they'll tell you, my auntie got divorced, grandmother got divorced, mama been divorced. Somebody's gotten a cancer and they say, I'm not the only one. My dad got cancer at this age. There are certain people who will say, yep, I'm mean, auntie's mean, uncle's mean. Well, what do we realize? We realize that there's been a generational cycle. Some people refer to it as a generational curse that has run through the family, that I'm not just poor, we all poor. I didn't just drop out of high school. All of us done dropped out of high school. And my thing is this: I am tired of passing down generational curses. I'm ready to start passing down some generational blessings. And so for Susie, who is there, and she's saying, I'm just a teacher, I'm saying, look, you can look back in your life and see some things that have been passed down to you that you don't like. Well, now you get to reverse the curse. I'm telling every person that you are going to break curses on that last name. You are going to break generational cycles, because this is my thing, man. If a cycle of divorce can run through my family, then a cycle of healthy marriages can run through my family. If a cycle of being mean and rude can run through my family, then a cycle of being loving and kind can run through my family. And every person has to look at themselves and say, okay, I'm called to be the cycle breaker in my family and then be the cycle maker in my family. And it's time to make a new cycle for the people behind you.
A lot of people are married and they're listening to you. Maybe one spouse is listening right now and they feel like they get what you're saying. They see the necessity of it. They see the importance of it. How do you bring this conversation home? How did you have these type of legacy talks with your wife? Like you said, you've been married 14 years, got 2 great kids. How are you invoking this lesson that you learned or that was given to you even by your grandfather? How are you now implementing that and creating an extension of that legacy within your own home?
I think the power of legacy is not just in what I accumulate, but in who I want to become. I think we've made legacy an external conversation alone, where it needs to be an internal conversation. An internal conversation is, look, what type of people do we want to be? What characteristics do we want to have? What kind of integrity do we want to leave behind? And I think when it comes to a marriage, I think every couple needs to have a legacy conversation. What are we trying to get done? What are we trying to leave behind? What are we trying to accomplish? Who do we want to be for our children? In my home, man, we have principles. We have legacy principles that we talk about all the time. One of our legacy principles is dream big. So my wife and I, we model that. We get together and we start dreaming big. I'm recently going through a transition where I moved from one state to the next state. Part of that is because I'm dreaming big. And so I really think that sometimes marriages, they go through certain struggles because they're not having conversations that makes them come alive. When I think legacy, man, I'm thinking conversations that are about where we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. My wife and I don't have a 5-day vision. We got a 5-year vision. We don't have a 10-week vision. We have a 10-year vision. We know what we want our 40s to look like. We know what we want our 50s to look like. And I'm telling you, man, that kind of conversation, It drives everything. It affects our budget. It affects the way we spend. It affects how we pray. It affects how we talk. It affects the decisions that we make because we got our eye on the prize. And I'm telling every marriage right now, you need to build a legacy marriage, a marriage that's not just living for today, but building something for tomorrow.
You know, you're asking a lot of us to just change. Anytime we're being asked to change, that means we're being forced to look in the mirror. Anytime we're being forced to look in the mirror, it might be tough at what we see. And that might cause us to retreat back to our default mechanisms, our old mindsets, our typical habits, and avoid this conversation. How do we move past that, push through that fear, that inadequacy feeling, that imposter syndrome? Who am I to be able to build a legacy? What encouragement do you have for somebody who heard you, but they're in the other ear, they're battling through imposter syndrome, wondering if they can actually do what you're asking them to do?
I have a chapter in my book called Be the First. And part of the reason why I wrote this chapter is because majority of the people that I talk to, they are the first in their family to try to accomplish a feat that they're going after. I meet people all the time who are like, I'm trying to be the first to own a home. I'm trying to be the first to have a good marriage. I'm trying to be the first to graduate from college. All these different things can be discouraging. It is hard when you're trying to build something without a blueprint. It is discouraging when you are trying to accomplish something you've never seen before. But I'm pushing people to be the first. You're waiting for a blueprint, but the truth is, you are the blueprint. You've been waiting for a map, but the truth is, you are the map. You're the one that God is going to use to break down doors and break down walls for others to get behind. And I tell people all the time, man, you got to write this thing down. This can't just be in your head. This got to be on paper. This has to be on your phone. This has to be on your laptop. This got to be in this. You said we look in the mirror. Well, guess what? You know what the problem is? You looking at the wrong thing when you look in the mirror. I need you to write some vision down. The Bible says, without a vision, man, people perish, people die, people cast off restraint, people live recklessly when they don't see the joy set before them, when they don't see the goal, when they don't believe that this mountain can come down. I know I'm preaching on here, but Jesus talks about mountains. He said, if there's a mountain in your way, come on, Mark 11, you gotta speak to mountains and tell them get out of your way. Listen to me. If you're going to be the first, there are going to be mountains in your way. There's going to be days where you're doubting, and you need that vision. You need that to drive you. And so, man, I got a dream house on my phone. I look at it all the time. I don't know about you, but I got a picture of a six-pack just in my phone. I ain't got it yet, but I've got a vision for it. And I'm telling people, man, we all go through days of being discouraged. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad. Get back on your vision. And I promise that energy is going to come back alive in you.
Man, that's incredible. Now, you just gave a couple of practical tips right there. You talked about the importance of writing this vision down, maybe even having some photos on your phone that you can refer to keep it before your eyes. What are some other things practically that people can do to even like kind of turn the ship in the direction of living for legacy?
Yeah, it starts with the vision. You got to have that vision. You got to have it written down. I would say, man, there is something that I find that my generation struggles with that you desperately need, and that is mentorship. And I have mentors. I've got legacy mentors. I have financial mentors. I have marriage mentors. I have spiritual mentors. People whose life I look at and say, yeah, I kind of want to look like that. I have a friend who recently lost a lot of weight, and they asked him, man, what'd you do to lose all that weight? He said, well, I'll go to the gym and I find the fittest person in the gym. And whatever they were doing, I just did. I just felt like if it worked for them, it's got to work for me. And so I'm trying to get my generation to write down vision. And I'm trying to get my generation to get mentors, to find people who can keep you accountable, who can give you that support. I would also say, man, you have to get to a place where you start to decide what are the principles that I want to live by. I believe every person needs to have life principles, at least 3 to 5 principles that you live your life by that don't break for nothing. Whether it's, I know people who have life principles such as we don't use debt, right? Well, that's one of mine. I don't go into debt. I don't borrow money. That's one of my life principles. There's something about living with that principle that keeps me motivated, that keeps me strong. I know people who say, look, I don't lie. I'm never going to lie. Truth matters to me. You got to find those concrete principles, those life principles that you live by every single day, and you don't break and you don't shake. Give me 5, write down 5 and say, this is who I am. Because what's going to end up happening is as you begin to model that and walk in that, it's not only going to get you confidence, but you are going to find that you are going to replicate that in other people around you. And to be honest with you, that's the greatest legacy you could ever leave. Because I know too many people who are leaving back cash, but not character. And so don't just pass down your coin, pass down your character and the principles that you want to live by.
Love it, man. I love the alliteration. The preacher in you had 2 C's right there. I saw it, I felt it, I got it. Coins and character. I got it.
Something in there.
Now, you said something really important that you hear a lot, but you don't know how to execute. And you said the importance of finding mentorship. So what advice do you have for finding a mentor? And for those who are fortunate enough to find a mentor, what are some best practices with your interaction with that mentor to where it's mutually beneficial?
Yeah, for me, I feel like the responsibility of mentorship is on the mentee. Uh, the ocean don't go to the cup. The cup got to come to the ocean. And so if you want to drink, you want water from that ocean, you can't ask the ocean to come find you. You got to bring that cup and you got to pour it into the ocean. And so I find too many mentees uh, struggle with the beauty of annoyance. Um, if you really want a mentor, first and foremost, when you have to look at their life in whatever area you're choosing, and you have to say, that's what I want to look like. That's what I want to be. That's it for me. And so once you establish that like for instance, His or Her Money, you guys have an amazing podcast. You guys are mentors to other people who want to do podcasts. Say, I want a podcast just like yours. Okay. The next thing you have to do is become a little annoying. You got to be persistent. You almost have to go through rejection. Why do I say that? Because you're going to text your mentor. They may text you back. You're going to call your mentor. They may call you back. If you're going to chase after your mentor, they may get back to you. But here's the deal. You text your mentor 5 times and they don't respond. The 6th time that you text them and they say, hey, I have some time. Can you talk right now? Yes. They are about to give you 2 hours of straight up wisdom. They're about to hook you up. They're about to change years of your life in 2 hours. And you have to recognize that 2 hours was worth the 5 text messages that they didn't respond to. You got to stay in there because you need what they have. And too many mentees stop at text 3 because they say, maybe the mentor don't like me because they didn't respond. Listen, if it's a real mentor, they busy. They doing stuff. And the number one thing on their priority isn't to respond to all of your calls. But if you remain persistent, a good mentor can give you one principle that can make you millions of dollars. A good mentor can give you one principle that can turn your life around. So I'm telling everybody who wants a mentor, chase. That's right, chase. Be a tad bit annoying. And I promise if you are consistent and persistent, they will outpour knowledge on you that will change your life.
Can you give an example? Do you have an example of something a mentor of yours told you that changed your life forever?
I'll never forget the day that I was with my mentor and we were talking about, money. And I was talking about at the time, when I first got married, my wife made more money than me. And so because I had an ego and I couldn't handle that, I told her, look, we had separate accounts. I told her, I said, listen, I'll pay all the bills. You do whatever you want with your money. I got this. Okay. Well, what would happen is every month I pay the bills and I'd be short. I have no money left. And so I used to go to my wife and say, hey, can I borrow like $20? I'm gonna pay you back. I got you next time I get paid. And she said, no, sweetie, it's our money. I said, no, 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 no. I got this. I want her to know I'm the man because I wanted to be able to say I'm paying the bills. So my wife is loaning me $20 every month just so I can get something to eat for lunch during the day. And one of my mentors said, man, what in the world are you doing? You look like an idiot. And I said, no, 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 man. I'm the man of my house paying the bills. She made more money than me, but I pay the bills in this house. And he said, man, no, you guys need joint accounts. Never heard of that in my life. Joint accounts. Yes, it's not his or her money. It's not his or her money. It's y'all money. It's you all need to do this together. And man, when I went and got a joint account, me and my wife put our money together. Not only did it improve our finances and improve our communication, it improved just our ability to create vision together. And so that was one mentor. That was about maybe 12 years ago. And we've been doing joint accounts ever since. I've never looked back. Now, when I hear other couples who have separate accounts, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know how you're doing it. You all got, it's two of y'all with 8 different accounts. I don't understand how you're doing it. Let's just bring it together.
I don't get it either. They're sitting at the restaurant negotiating who's gonna pay for dinner. I paid last time. Like y'all are married. Y'all are married. If you can share DNA and create children, you should be able to share your dollars and create a legacy. You should be living for legacy. Speaking of which, you have a blueprint. We don't have to try to figure this out and piece it all together. You got a blueprint for us in your book. Can you tell us about the book, what we'll find in the book, and how we can get a copy of it?
Listen, the book, Living for Legacy, Creating a Blueprint for a Life That Matters. We released this book last year in the midst of a pandemic, and it just sold like wildfire. Every week, my wife and I, we are self-published. We are selling this right out of our homes. Our children are signing books. Our kids are going to the post office, and it's a beautiful thing. I love it. It's an experience that I will not ever forget at any point in my life. But in the book, you're going to find out how to make your last name bigger than your first name. You're going to find out how to be the first, how to break those generational cycles. I talk about how to have a legacy marriage. I talk about how to think like a farmer. Farmers are never shocked when they get a harvest because they know that they've already been planting these seeds. And so I teach you how to plant the seeds today that you are going to harvest tomorrow. And you can get the book from brianmbullock.com. Every book that comes from that website, I sign it and we mail it directly out to you, or you can go on Amazon. You can get the ebook on Amazon, or you can just order the book straight from Amazon. Brian Bullock, Living for Legacy. It is a book that is literally changing people's lives.
As we conclude, a lot of people lost some hope because of the pandemic, and like, how am I going to build a legacy? I'm trying to just rebound. I'm trying to recover. It could be a physical recovery because maybe they dealt with the virus, or maybe they lost someone. So it's an emotional recovery, and maybe they lost a job and it's a financial recovery. If we're in recovery mode, or just being in the house for a year, and I'm trying to recover from that. My kids is here. I'm working from here. My husband's here. My wife's here. We all here. And we're just trying to get some normalcy back in our lives. How do we take this message of living for a legacy and apply it to our lives in this environment?
I have a chapter in my book called Be Selfish Sometimes. And I think that we are in a season where people are going to have to start being selfish. What do I mean by that? I think some of the greatest care that gets ignored is self-care. And my mindset is this: the greatest gift you can give someone is a healthy whole you. more than your money, more than your big houses, more than your stuff. Your family wants you, and they want to healthy you, and they want to hold you. It is absolutely okay for you to stop during this season and say, y'all, I'm taking a me-cation. It's okay to say, y'all, I'm going to therapy. It's okay to stop and say, listen, I'm investing in myself right now. I'm not trying to hold everybody up. Before I can put my mask on anybody else, I got to put the mask on me first to make sure that I'm breathing, that I'm okay, and that I'm surviving. This is a time for you to check in on yourself. I do not want you, this is not grind, never stop working. Come on, build a legacy, get 8 jobs. No, the greatest legacy you can leave is a healthy whole you. And so this is the moment that maybe you need to pause, step away, and take care of yourself.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much, Brian, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your wisdom with our audience today.
Thank you, man. It's an honor.
Well, there you have it, guys. Another fantastic episode, power packed. You probably need to go ahead and rewind and start this one from the beginning again, because lots of jewels were dropped. And we want you to get that in your spirit. We don't want you to not just hear this message and go on about your day the same way you came into this episode, but we want some change. We want you to think differently. We want you to act differently. And so we hope that you take the message and the information that Brian shared and that you take it in and apply it. Pick up a copy of his book because he walks you through this process. You don't have to walk through it blindly and try to figure it out on your own. This book is amazing. Go to brianmbullock.com, pick up his book, Living for Legacy. That's all we got for this time, guys. Remember, we got plenty of inspiration and education just like this over at our website, hisandhermoney.com. Until next time, guys, peace.